I'll hand the baton to you, Matt.
Thank you. All right, what's going on, guys? We are going to talk about 2025 because 2024, believe it or not, is almost over.
Yeah, who cares anymore, right?
Who cares anymore? 2024, done.
I care a little bit.
You care a little bit. All right. Well, we're going to have some fun here today. We're going to got a pretty diverse group of folks here talking about what should we be thinking about as we go into next year. Always one of my favorite topics, given the pace of change in our industry. So first, I want to have everyone do a quick introduction so you can hear where everyone sits sort of in the industry and perspectives before we get into some of the questions. So why don't we start down at the end? Kris?
Hi, everybody. My name is Kris Qiu. I am the CEO and co-founder of IQM Corporation. So for those of you who might not know IQM, IQM is an advertising technology company that specializes in compliance-driven, data-focused programmatic advertising solution for highly regulated vertical. So with a strong focus in politics, healthcare, and pharma. I am very passionate about leveraging technology to create impactful ethical advertising strategies. I'm very happy to be here today to share the insights on the media landscape and also to explore what lies ahead for 2025.
Should have had him go last. That's a hard, hard bill to swallow.
You're
I'm Greg, friend from Nativo. I lead our content strategy and insights efforts there. For those of y'all who don't know us, we're content people. So we try to combine the value of strong content with the power of technology and programmatic and all of the fancy buzzwords in the space. And I am moderately happy to be here.
Moderately? We're going to change that.
I said I was gonna
We're going to
come.
change that. We're going to change that.
Your last name is Friend. You have to be like
Gotta
so
be nice
friendly
to
and happy to be
all
here.
the time,
Yeah.
24/7.
Okay. I'm glad to dispute that.
All right, let's bring the vibes up a bit, please.
You got it. Hi, everyone. Carly Ehrlich. Very excited to be here. I'm Senior Business Development Lead of Brands and Agencies at Wurl, a CTV technology company. And I help brands and agencies find their audiences on the big screen.
Sweet. And I'm Matt Fantazier. I lead integrated marketing or integrated media. I just changed my job, not my job, at Kenvue, which is our retail and national media. So I'm going to be moderating today. I have some questions here for the group, but I have instructed them before we get started to please ask each other questions. Let's get into it. Let's have some fun. We'll save some time at the end as well for you guys to ask any questions or push on any of the bold predictions that we're going to go over here today. Cool. So we'll start with AI, a topic that probably hasn't been talked about much today. But this is one that's a laugh break. Come on. We're going to have to work on the vibes. So thank you. So AI, huge topic for the last, give or take, 2 years, but it means a lot of different things. So my question to the group here is, given how broad this topic is and how easy it is to get lost in just the enormity of it, where do you think marketers should be really focused in on in 2025?
You're starting with me?
I am.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm excited to be the first person to ever talk about AI today, so thank you for giving me that opportunity. Yeah, and for the cheer. But I think everyone is really looking for a practical use case for AI. And at Wurl, we're really excited. We actually launched our newest ad product called Brand Discovery that utilizes generative AI within the CTV space. So we actually are looking constantly at CTV data down to the scene level to understand within that content the different emotions that are evoked from that particular content, and then take an ad, for example, understand the emotions evoked from that ad, and place it seamlessly next to similar sentiments. So an example of this would be the movie Up, for example, which I'm sure is everyone's favorite movie, inclusive of myself. And when you think of Up, you really think of a family-friendly comedy.
Except for the first 5 minutes.
Wait, you took the line from
Oh, okay.
Oh my God, yes. No, that's, you're
okay,
right.
okay. We're going.
We're going for lunch after. So the first 5 minutes, not funny,
That's horrible.
Not a comedy, and you are just in this deep emotional state. You're so sad, and let's just say you're hit with this really happy, amazing, joyful, go-lucky ad. Yeah. No, it doesn't work. Like you said, you need something that also resonates the same sentimentally and tonally as well, that same emotion. So a really sad emotion, for example. So that's where I'm really excited for where AI can take us.
Great.
And thanks for vibing.
Great example.
Yeah, I think when the whole AI thing started, right, which is like way longer ago than we all really think about, but 18, 24 months ago, I think the initial question was like, should we do this? Can we do this? Right? I think brands were really concerned about consumer perceptions about that. Is that going to invalidate the trust that a person has towards my brand, and how can I or should I properly deploy or use this? And I think we've come a long way in that regard. Like, I think most brands probably are leaning into it a little bit more. We did a really interesting study a while ago to try to help figure this out. We actually showed people a series of sort of mirror articles, one that was human generated and one AI. And we didn't tell them it was an AI related study. We asked them a whole bunch of questions about, is this content good? Is it relatable? Does it feel authentic? Would you read more content by this same author? All of that kind of stuff. And at the very end, tipped our hat and said, do you think this was written by AI or by humans? And the fascinating thing was most people got it wrong. So like 53% of people can't tell if content is AI generated or not. And in key categories like authenticity, AI actually outperformed human generated content.
That's terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. And so the question I think is like no longer can we, but how should we be using this properly? Okay, so to answer your actual question of like, where do I think that's going now? I think the answer is data. I think, at least in my own use of AI, AI has been great as a conversation piece. Hey, I've got an idea about this. Like, let me shoot ideas back and forth. Or help me analyze these individual components and that sort of thing. When you start to pump data into AI, or even worse, if you try to use AI as a research tool to help you find things, ChatGPT is a great example of this, it really sucks. Like, it hallucinates and makes up data or improperly sources data or takes real data points but ascribes it to an audience that it actually wasn't about or whatever the case may be. And I think in the same way that there was that aha moment years ago with first-party data and big data and all of that, like I think that's coming to AI where there's so much that you could be doing, and if you're not careful, you're going to do it all wrong. Trash in, trash out.
Yep, I think in general I agree with Greg. Right, I think there's so many different AI tools out there right now in the marketplace, but there's also tons of first-party data that brand owns. I think at the end of the day, when you're implementing AI, you also have to implement in a compliant way and making sure that consumers trust the AI that you are essentially transparency. But in terms of, I think, AI in general, right? So, AI has been, so many applications for marketers in the last couple of years. What I do see, I think, going into 2025, I think specifically when it comes to personalization at scale, I think that's going to be a lot of AI that will be implemented into that area of a scale. So for example, based on the first-party data that brands own, if you can customize the content on a website, so every consumer, when they go onto your website, you're going to experience or you're going to see different content versus someone else's has a different purchasing behavior or historical data. And then the other topic here is automation, right? So we're talking about specifically automation on the, from a campaign optimization, from insights. So I think when it comes to AI, it can help, I think, automate the entire process for a brand and marketer when they run a campaign, when they're optimizing campaign, and drive informed decision in real time. Because historically, when they run a campaign, they typically get the data back like a couple of days. Now they have real-time data and has all the engine that allow them to do all these type of changes during the campaign process.
So I'm going to go a little deeper in data because you guys all touched on it. Different data sets, different applications, which is not surprising. Data really fuels everything we do right now. But it's a super complex space. Cookies are going away, then they're not, but like kind of. Retail data, hugely popular, huge data set the brands are now starting to tap into. Publishers have their own contextual data and all that behavioral sort of stuff going on. What should we be asking ourselves? How do you make sense of all this? How do you apply it? As you guys are thinking about the data sets you're interacting with, like how do you sift through it? Because right now I don't think it's a matter of finding the right data, but it's using the right data is probably a bigger question. Why don't we start, Kris, why don't you start at the end there?
I think in general, first-party data is hugely important. I think first-party data allow brand to do all these type of consumer insights and driving personalizations. So when it comes to, I think, specifically when cookies are going away, brand definitely need to, I think, consider multiple type of data strategy there. So one will be essentially focusing on first-party data, but you got to also leverage third-party data as well, because first-party data always has a limitation. It's great for compliance perspective, it's great for personalization, but then the scalability and also I think extension of audience additional reach, I think there would be a problematic if you only implement first-party data.
I think brand marketers, when it comes to data, are a little bit lazy. Like
Go on. No. Say it again.
I think we like what's easy and what we're used to, and I think the response. I mean, we see this every time Google pushes things back, right? It's like, oh, cookies are going away. Holy shit, what do I do? And then they say, just kidding. We all go, right? Because then that means, I can continue to do my cookie-based third-party data targeting and not have to change things. And so when you say, like, what do we need to do? I think we need to stop being lazy. And I think we need to roll up our sleeves a little bit and investigate what all of those options are out there, right? Because the truth is there are incredible new data sets that are out there, or data assets, from a publisher perspective, from a first-party perspective, leveraging machine learning and AI and performance-related cookie-less segments, et cetera. And I think whoever does that, whoever says, you know what, we're not going to do things the same way we've been doing for the last 20 years from a data perspective, I think those brands are going to perform the best.
My sleeves are up, man. Okay, let's go.
I think from where I sit within the CTV space, I think when looking at data, it's how are we looking at metadata, and then how are we standardizing that metadata? So let's go back to that up example for a second. Let's just say you're looking to target comedy, but we know, as you so nicely pointed out, that first scene, again, not a comedy. So how can we utilize that metadata to really be able to understand at the scene level the different types of genres that are actually taking place at the different scenes? So really being able to look at standardizing metadata down to the scene level to say, okay, if I'm targeting a comedy, I actually am running in a comedic scene and not just an overall title that is comedy.
I'm going to jump us ahead since you brought up CTV, and I want to make sure we talk about this. Yeah. It's been growing a lot. You know this. You work in this. I'm telling you all sorts of things you already know. But very fast descent over the last couple of years. Went from basically nothing to now you can't miss it. What are brands not thinking about as we go into 2025? Like how have you seen them approaching CTV, and what do you think we should be doing differently to think about it its own thing?
Yeah, I think it's actually both the same answer, oddly enough. It's that contextual. You know, everyone's been utilizing contextual. That's nothing new to CTV or to really linear TV advertising in general. But how do we go a step further beyond just contextual and really look at emotion? How are we able to really impact brand KPIs and really move the needle on business outcomes by aligning next to similar emotions? At Wurl, we've done our own internal testing, and we know that when your ad comes right after the ad break of a scene with a similar sentiment, business outcomes are really able to drastically increase, and people don't change the channel when your ads are emotionally aligned in the right place. So I think that's where we've been thinking about contextual, but how can we take it a step further and really look at emotion?
We don't really sell. I mean, we do a little bit of CTV, but I love what you're saying about contextual because that resonates so strongly with me. We are very much in the contextual space, and I think your point is dead on, which is contextual isn't just about the literal content that you are alongside of, right? It is about the specifics of that. It is about the context in which a consumer is consuming that content. So there's an example I love to give, which is we work with healthcare pharma brands a lot. And the obvious thing to say is I want my content, my advertising to be alongside healthcare-related content. Cool, we can do that. We've got tons of scale and we can do that. But the reality is it performs really poorly. And the reason is because the context in which a consumer goes online to read healthcare content is very specific. I just found out a family member got diagnosed with X. My kid has Y. I'm trying to find something very specific, which means that I am not at all amenable to departing from that journey and engaging with adjacent but really unrelated content, right? And so I think like those are the kinds of contextual related signals that we think a lot about.
Yeah, I love that, and it shows that goes beyond just CTV, just really finding that audience no matter where they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think from IQM standpoint, we are mainly focused on politics for the past 9 years. So CTV actually represent more than 50% of our revenue today. So from our perspective, especially given the election cycle, we see tremendous amount of spending on the CTV, right? So from our customer perspective, we have seen different type of strategy going to CTV. So we're looking at the macro and micro level. So on the macro level, so again, most of our clients are on the political side, either a candidate or super PAC that supports certain candidates across different districts. So geo-specific is one of the strategy that they really focusing on, even beyond specific zip code. So that's one of the things they're focusing on, also bringing the first-party data. We're talking about voter file for matching. So we have the ability to take that first-party data, implement it, and do a one-to-one target across CTV space. Additionally, of course, contextual is also part of what we're doing. I think we spend tons of money with you guys as well.
Woohoo!
So I think in general, CTV, I would say, I think, in order to get to a scale, I think that's important that you implement multiple strategy because not every publisher will send you the type of data that you're looking for. So having a dynamic and having a broader CTV targeting will make sense. Of course, I think the measurement is also important here from CTV perspective. Historically, CTV is less likely to be measured. Now today, you do have a lot of different measurement tools in place that allow brand to essentially to do the measurements.
So we got the after lunch crowd here. I'm not sure anyone wants to hear about measurement, right? Boo. Let's talk about something a little bit more fun here. So I had those questions written down. It seemed like a good idea last week. It seems like a real bad idea right now. So we're going to take a hard left. So we're going to get to two final open-ended questions before we open it up to the group here for anyone who has any thoughts or questions. What do you think advertisers are not doing enough of today? Anything, could be whatever. You probably don't think they do enough contextual CTV about.
Shocker, yeah.
But what do you, Greg, why don't you start?
I think advertisers are doing too much at the polls. I think they're doing too much at sort of opposite ends of the funnel. I liken it to like a bad gym bro, right? Like a gym bro walks in and picks up the 2 dumbbells, right? And just cranks the arms. And that's what we've done as marketers. We crank on the branding side. We all have brands that are
the glamour muscles.
And we crank on the other side. We crank the other bicep from a performance marketing perspective, right? We've spent so much time and effort and money trying to hone those tactics and that measurement. And we have entirely neglected the middle. And the reason is because it's hard to do and harder to measure. And we see results, right? From if you pump your arms even just a little bit, you'll immediately start to see results. And so again, we've gotten a little bit lazy. And what that means is we've tried to take this shortcut between branding and performance and ignored opportunities to make more meaningful connections with consumers. And so from our perspective, like that's what we think brands aren't doing enough of right now is taking that step back to say, how do I actually establish a connection with you, if I'm a brand, with a consumer in a way that is meaningful, that can help make my awareness dollars work harder, right? It's not enough to be known, you have to be considered. And how do I make my performance dollars work harder? There's no conversion without first being considered. And so we spend a lot of time talking about and thinking about that middle and leveraging content and contextual and programmatic and AI to help brands make those connections. Kris.
I think lastly, I want to mention, I think brand has not done enough is bringing the first-party data to work. I think historically they've been hesitating to work with outside vendors on, essentially bringing their first-party for targeting. But nowadays we do have cleaning room, allow them to bring their first-party, I think, data for targeting, for personalization, and so on. In terms of measurement side, of course, I think from a measurement standpoint, I think brands are started looking for more and more measurements out there. Specifically, I think for us, we highly focus on healthcare and politics. On the political side, our customer cares about voter journey, right? On the healthcare side, our client really concerned about like physician level journey or patient level journey. So those are the things I think you'll probably see more and more going into 2025, I would say.
I do have a non-contextual answer, if that's okay with you, sir.
But does
Challenges
it
late.
involve an up reference?
I couldn't weave it in.
Let's go.
Okay.
All right, let's see.
Yeah, no, I actually think, you're going to laugh. People aren't paying enough attention to the idea of attention. And what does that mean? I'm not going to use the up example because I'm getting the vibe. But the idea is, that, when you are on the big screen, that is the biggest, it could be 90 inches in some living rooms and bedrooms. That is the biggest place to really be garnering attention. But you want positive attention. You don't want that attention to be negative. So you don't want your ad in a place that emotionally or contextually does not make sense, because then people are going to change the channel, and that's negative attention, and therefore that does nothing to move your KPIs or to move your business outcomes. So paying attention to attention, and how do we make that positive attention?
I think, Carly, that's a great point. For our customer, they like to tend to be on those type of content, because again, political candidate tend to, I think, focus on those hot topics. So I think we are the opposite from a political standpoint.
Yeah.
All
You're
right.
going to give me a dig. I feel it in your eyes.
No,
Okay.
no, I mean, you couldn't help yourself, but it's fine. Sorry, we're all here to do a job. So lastly, I'll close this with one bold prediction for 2025. Anything could be related to, Bachelor in Paradise next season, whatever you're into.
I think AI will be a new standard for next year. A lot of brands that, if they don't implement AI in general to help them with automation or customization, I think they're going to be struggle to keep up with the market.
I think brands are going to spend less on performance marketing and actually sell more as a result. I also think the Bears are going to make the playoffs.
We're asking for predictions, not dreams. No, they're like 3-2, right? They're doing
Caleb
okay.
Look great.
Yeah, I think brands are going to focus more so on emotion and how we take contextual to the next level, bring it back.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you for all your hot takes and bold predictions here on 2025. I think we might have a couple minutes if anyone has any questions or thoughts for us. And with that, I'll turn it over to the audience.
We got a bunch. Let's
Yeah.
go.
So I think we've talked about AI in the contextual space, we've talked about it in targeting and measurement. I'm curious in the creative space, if you guys have seen AI utilized with creatives, and if so, what's not?
I think leveraging it as a tool in the same way you would Photoshop or Canva or anything else that you have from that perspective, right? In the same way that. Oh, sorry. The question was, we've heard a lot about the use of AI around data and contextual and that sort of thing, but what about in the creative space? And my thought is we should look at it like any other tool that we would use, a better performing camera or a particular piece of software or whatever, which is to say, I don't think it replaces humans or replaces content creation in the way that it exists now. I think that it augments it and makes it work better. Some of that is transformative. We've been spending time trying to figure out how to take static assets and turn them into videos, leveraging AI technology for folks who don't have budgets to have a video studio, as an example. Some of it can be, hey, I've got this great idea for a long-form editorial piece, but I'm stuck on the opening paragraph, and literally workshopping it back and forth when you don't have a human available at 2 a.m, right, when you're working against a deadline. Like, those are the kinds of things that I think are not only helpful, but are also very acceptable from a consumer perspective.
Yep, I think from our end, yes, I definitely have seen marketer in the using AI for creative automation. And again, AI I think can empower a marketer, but at the end of the day, human, I think, don't forget about the human. I think they are important in driving the strategy, driving the ethical of advertising. From our end, we also, I think, recently, California just passed the deepfake video creative, right, specifically for political advertising, so it's completely banned. So for us, we have looking to develop technology to detect all the deepfake creative to make sure that we don't run those for our political advertising. I think that's a huge, and again, compliance will become, I think, a key element here when it comes to AI specifically for creative generation.
Some questions over here.
Sounds like this is something that I'm struggling with, and I totally relate with the gym bro analogy. You're very good at two things, but then I seem to understand that the team, I find it really hard should the various teams kind of work together, orchestrate that collaboration? And I'm finding it very hard. How are you guys collaborating on all the things, for example, that you offer separately? What are you using to collaborate? Are you still back at phone calls and or how do you do it?
I'll give an answer as someone who works across. I'll answer a question here. I think there's a lot of. You all looked a little terrified. I gotcha. We'll shepherd you through this experience. A lot of low tech talking to each other. Honestly, like it is. My team. I have a very diverse team. We have people spanning all sorts of different parts of the organization, disciplines. It is. A lot of it comes down to, did you talk to the other person? As crazy as that sounds, or as simple as that sounds, honestly, it's like, kinda. I mean, I think to understand, especially when you have people that come from different worlds, understanding each other's context is really important, and that gets lost in Teams and email and things like that. Actually having the conversation has typically yielded better results than trying to mash things together. That's kind of my take on it.
I think I want to add something here. I think the importance of documentation is really important for communication. At our company, we have over 100 people globally and fully remote. I think and multiple time zone too. So we have experienced growing pain, just like yours, over the last couple of years. And we realized, we have Slack channel, we have Gmail, we got Miro board. So you got tons of different tools that has a lot of communication across multiple tools. So having a great centralized documentation that could share among all the team members, I think that's really key for scaling.
Not sure what our time is. With maybe time for one more.
The bear stand. So you said that you want to get rid of performance marketing.
Didn't say get rid of, but
Or lessen it.
yep.
What do you mean? Like, how do you justify marketing spend if you don't have performance marketing?
Yeah, well, so there's a couple of things there. One is I think performance metrics still unbelievably important, but I think we're doing ourselves and our partners and our content and our consumers a disservice if we only say in the day or 7 days or 14 or 28 or whatever days after this ad ran, did I sell more units? Did I get more signups? That is not, I think, the right way to think about how a brand or how a consumer wants to connect or engage with a brand, right? People want relationships. People want some sort of connection between themselves and their brand. There's a million ways to say this, right? You don't want to be liked, you want to be loved if you're a brand, those sorts of things. And so I think it starts with understanding, in order to be truly successful and have strong performance, you have to work the middle. Like, let's take Friskies as an example, right? You could wake up every day and we could hit you with an ad for Friskies cat food. To the point where you wake up every day and you think about it, right? You know them really well. And then after a couple of weeks, I'm going to hit you with an ad every single day that's a coupon and a link to directly add it to your cart. And what's missing there is, do you even give a shit? Like, do you own a cat? Does your cat have special dietary restrictions? Does your cat have hairballs and you don't know enough about if Frisky has the right stuff? Is it fit within your budget? Do they have sustainable production facility components? Do they have the right protein content? Do you care about the ingredients that are included? Like, all of this stuff is what I mean in terms of building that relationship and making a better connection in the middle. There's relevance and familiarity and favorability and value matching and all of these other things that we know innately matter and shape the way in which a consumer is going to make a decision, and we just entirely ignore, right? We think, okay, I'm going to run big spots, I'm going to run CTV, I'm going to run radio, I'm going to run, but like,
yes,
right,
ma'am.
right, and it's useful, and like we absolutely think that you should continue to do that, but then to shortcut immediately into now buy me, not a great recipe for success.
Pretty strong note to end on here on cat food. I think we're at the time here, so I'm going to call it there. Yeah, but thank you guys for the time today, and we'll pass it to the next group.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Matt.